Hello and welcome to Views on News. I'm your host Rafae Iqbal, and in today's show we'll be deliberating on one of the major democratic events that is happening around the world, of course, the US state elections, the US presidential elections. As of course we know, it's a very hotly contested race. The Americans go to polls on the 5th of November. We know it's a tightly contested race between the Republican nominee Donald Trump and of course the Democratic Vice President Kamala Harris. And as the poll surveys show, it's a neck-on-neck competition with a margin of error as well, which makes it even further to analyze what the poll situation is going to be. If we talk about the 7 key battleground states, the swinging states which have the weight on these elections, and both the candidates, we know they're campaigning very vigorously in these swinging states, and of course they will have the weight on these elections as whoever gains more momentum in these 7 states is going to have the upper hand in the elections itself. Also, both the candidates are trying to woo undecided voters at the moment as they ramp up the election campaigns. We know Kamala Harris, as she went to Michigan, as it has a lot of youth bulge, she focused on employment and the issues of inflation as to woo the young generation of voters. Of course, if we talk about the other key factors that will also affect and have an impact on these elections, there's the Gaza war. Of course, America saw its own version of the Arab Spring. We saw university protests happening with regards to all the Muslim population that is in America. There was protest demonstrations in other parts of the world as well. But if we talk about America in particular, there were widespread university protests. And of course, all those protesters, all those demonstrators will also be taking part in these elections. So it's going to be a challenge for both the candidates to woo these Muslim voters. The other factors that are going to affect the voters' sentiments, which include healthcare, inflation, employment, immigration and women's rights. Of course, and we talk about women's rights, we know the abortion laws and all the electioneering with regards to that is also having a major impact in whoever is trying to garner the female vote in America. Also, there's a lot of young-time voters that are going to be casting their ballots for the first time, and of course, social media and the internet is playing a vital role in shaping their opinions as well. We'll be deliberating on all the aspects of the US elections. In the studios, we've been joined by Dr. Manzoor Afridi, who is a foreign affairs expert. Along with Dr. Manzoor, we've been joined by Dr. Baqir Malik, who is a foreign affairs expert. And on Skype, we've been joined by Shazia Malik, who is an international affairs expert. Coming to the studios, I'll start off our conversation from Dr. Manzoor Afridi. Sir, the elections in the US, of course, 5th of November, the day the Americans go to polls. Of course, a very tightly contested race, as the poll survey also show. How do you comment on the overall situation at the moment? It's going neck and neck from both the Republican side and the Democrat side. And of course, this election in itself is it's a very happening thing in America. We see the American society being polarized at this moment. And of course, as the poll surveys also show, a neck and neck contest. What do you see happening in the United States?
It's really an interesting stage, but on the other side, it's also very much critical. And every time if there is election in United States, so the entire world that is watching and expecting many things, and especially particularly those countries who enjoy good relations or even sometime bad relations with United States of America. So no doubt that here in Pakistan, we as Pakistanis also view them very important for the future trajectory of Islamabad and Washington relationship. So as far as the debate, the race between the two candidates, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, is concerned, so they are having very good, very strong arguments from each side, and we have seen the debates at various US states. So I think they have very promising and very convincing arguments and views, how to convince the people, how to win the hearts and minds of the Americans, especially the youngsters. So in this regard, I think there is also criticism not only within the United States but also from the other corners of the world, not only on Kamala Harris but also on Donald Trump about his previous policies, about his now future plan, what he is campaigning and what he is arguing and claiming for its if he becomes the US president. But I think now at this time it's very much difficult to predict that who is winning, because according to various polls conducted by the media outlets and also by the various research organizations, so if you talk no one in a position with overwhelming majority, if we can really predict that that is Kamala Harris or Donald Trump to have in this position. So anything can happen, and especially the American this presidential elections, even in American history, if we see, so it remained very much how to say unclear that who was winning, but at least lost election when Joe Biden was going to become the US president. So at many places it was clear that okay, he was, but now at this time very much critical. Another thing, the 7 states, those are considered as the battlegrounds for these swing states, right? So anything can happen, like Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina, Wisconsin, Nevada, Arizona, and Michigan, of course. So these states, they have those decisions power, I would say. And a second thing, they are according to various polls, the population in these 7 states, they also grieve within few years. So that's another thing. And also many migrants, immigrants, they have come here and they became the US citizens. So it can turn this presidential election result at at any side. Another thing about the Muslims, about the Arab people, the Arab US nationals, they can also play a very important role in this regard. That at this moment it is unclear that the Muslims or Arabs, they are on which side, because they are divided. I have gone through various polls, various reports, right? And some states they are supporting Trump, but in some they are supporting Kamala Harris. So let's see, let's wait for the 6 days, I mean on till 5th November, that what's happening, then we will see the results.
Definitely 5th of November the things will become clear. Dr. Baqir, I'd like your remarks when we talk about the US elections and of course how the race is very tightly contested at the moment. Of course, there's factors like healthcare, economy, immigration that are having a weight on these elections. But of course, there's also factors such as foreign policy that will also be affecting the electioneering in these elections. How do you comment on the narratives both the sides are weighing on to gather support from the American community at large? And of course, we know that as a poll survey I read just before the show, more of the male voters are more inclined towards Donald Trump, whereas the female voters, they're more inclined towards Kamala Harris. How do you comment on this overall scenario that we're witnessing in these American elections?
Thank you, Rafae. I think when you are going to compare the electoral campaign like this, you need to you need to study different factors. For example, one is the public opinion, second the electoral campaign strategy, third one is the personality of the leaders are like this. So as you have mentioned that if we compare all these factors, we have seen that there is a big difference between Kamala Harris and Trump. The reason is that because still during all this electoral campaign, we have seen that Harris has actually failed to pull the populist vote, while these populist voter is basically fully supporting to the Trump. One reason is it. Secondly, because I would say the public opinion building, and we have seen to build a public opinion, Trump at that moment using all social media, digital media very wisely and very effectively as compared to the other. The other reason is that you have seen that even the Democrats firstly nominated the Joe Biden. After that, at the 11th hour, they changed that, okay, the Kamala Harris will be the next candidate for this. So there is a, because you have seen the first debate between Trump and the Biden, that was basically deciding the future direction of the election. So this has also read by this Democrats. That's why they changed the candidate.
And Dr. Baqir, in your opinion, how do you think that went for the Democrats? Because of course, that presidential debate that you just mentioned, it had a very big impact, especially for the Democrat side.
Because you know, previous election in 2016 or 2020, we have seen that the conservative people, old people, they are fully supporting to the Trump, but the youth, young voter was basically supporting the Democrats. Now situation is a totally different. After this, especially Gaza-Palestine, Gaza-Israel conflict, because we have seen why the Democrats is basically their popularity is declined because the open support of the Israel, and this Republican know that this is the time that we can actually cash the young voters. So you have seen this time not only the conservative or older people, but younger voter is also supporting the Republican Trump. Even you have seen in American society, they have a clear stance about that. If Trump is basically take the White House, it means it is a clear threat for our democracy. But still this narrative is actually not a popular currently in the United States. The reason is that one is that because Trump is using a social electoral campaign strategy is a more effective as compared to the Democrats. Secondly, you have seen that during the all electoral campaign, the Trump has not like the fully supporting the Israel like this. Even sometimes they said, okay, we will work on a ceasefire, we will work to protect Palestine people or like this. So this time the Republican has a something like they know the importance of this. If we support the Israel openly, what will be its impact? Second, and another thing, the Republican or even in American election, you have seen that 2024 election in France, UK, this is also the case study for the America. If you are going to support, if you are going to against the society, because we have seen during this Israel and Palestine war, the society is basically divided. This time state has a different policy and societal response is a different.
Yes.
So because electoral campaign is absolutely directly dependent on the society, so this time Republican campaign something like that, they want to attract the youth and as compared to the Democrats, because yet they have not introduced any social policy that can help to attract the populist vote. So one thing, they have some edge, these Democrats, to the urban area, but still in a rural area or in a conservative or like in older, still they need to work more to if they want to attract the voter like this.
Definitely. Dr. Baqir, you raised some very important points, and I'd like to include Ms. Shazia Malik in the conversation as well, as a very interesting element came up in the conversation, specifically when we talk about how the foreign policy is going to have an effect in these elections. We know that usually doesn't happen. The Americans, they consider the issues related to employment, inflation, economy, healthcare and education as their primary concerns when they go to polls regarding the presidential elections. But we know America's witnessed its own version of the Arab Spring with the Israel-Gaza conflict. And we know there's a large Muslim population in America that will be going to the polls as well. And the American society stands polarized at the moment. How do you think foreign policy is also going to have an effect and weight in these elections?
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity. Yes, I mean, first of all, we must understand it's not really the popular vote that matters all the time. It's this very, very regressive system that they have of the electoral college. So that one actually decides who is going to win. Now, the system in US is extremely pathetic, I must say. It's a huge country, and it just has two political parties. One is Democrats and one is Republicans. So people really don't have any choice. They really have to choose between the devil and the deep sea. So that is the main problem. The thing is that you have mentioned about the foreign policy. Yes, definitely that's going to lead. But then there are other factors that are going to lead in this election. That is the white women vote. Earlier, they voted for Trump. So, but again, this time, because there are more women, for example, over 30, they are very much concerned about this abortion policy of the two presidential candidates. And then it is get out to vote, like what we say, GOTV. Harris had earlier 2,000 staff members on ground to get the votes, whereas the Trump campaign was, more depending on current Turning Point and Elon Musk's support. Then there was early vote. The early vote earlier wasn't that popular. Now the earlier vote has shown that Democrats have 45% lead. Earlier. When they decided, not really specifically that we are talking about on October 30th, earlier that showed. Now, again, down ballot, races. Harris gave something like 25 million US dollars to get the support of the people, to the staff members to get that. Even when you see today the ad spent that they have done, Harris had spent something like, around 100 million US dollars on ads. The ads have specifically been pro Harris. If you see the narrative in US that is being built at the moment. So Mr. Trump is really on the flip side, in a sense that they have not spent so much on the ads. For example, if you look at all the swing states, even in the swing states, Kamala Harris has been spending much more than Trump. 29 million, for example, in Michigan, then about 16 million in Arizona. Then whereas Trump has been using much less. For example, around 15, 16, or less, 5 million, for example, in like Nevada. So this thing has been propped up. Also, we must understand the main point over there is not really who actually, fights and wins. There is a whole American administration that is working behind. They took this, they made this experiment. They wanted to, bring a new thing that was Trump, and they thought that they are going to tame Mr. Trump, but then they found out that Mr. Trump can't be tamed. This time they don't want to do this experiment. They want to bring very much their own pro-establishment people. They had a very good run with Mr. Biden. Now they are going to bring Ms. Harris. So as some people have some doubts that maybe Mr. Trump will win, I strongly believe, and my belief can be absolutely wrong, but that's my own personal opinion, that Kamala Harris is going to win. Because if you see the whole wave, not only in US, but in the greater, Western context as well, where women are being at the helm, whether it is European Parliament, whether it is, the European Commissioner, whether it's the, the Prime Minister in few countries. So the whole narrative that we are building, we must understand few things, that it's the establishment, and it is the Electoral College that decides who actually will win. So foreign policy is just one point. There are other things that I pointed out: the white women, get out to vote, and early vote, and then down ballot votes. So these things also are going to play yes. Arab and Muslim Americans are very much offended with the Biden policy on Gaza, but I mean, that's about it. That is just about one point. The other point is, again, who the administration or the Pentagon wants to represent. And maybe I think a US, after a long time, they are ready now for a female, president. So if you think that there's going to be a change, no, there's going to be no change in foreign policy. She's going to toe the same Biden administration policies. And in fact, these policies are of the American administration who work at the, behind the curtains. So that's really going to be the scenario. So you think that there's going to be a change? No, there's a change will only come perhaps if Mr. Trump wins. Mr. Trump wins, right. Yes, because he's against wars, so he might stop the wars, but the rest of the things might just continue.
Right, too premature to comment, that's what I understand as well. But of course, as you mentioned, and also as how the conversation has shaped up, as we know, what the situation is right now, of course, the society stands polarized. There's a lot of different avenues that and different concerns that each side has. But of course, whatever the results, whatever the outcome of these elections is going to be, do you think, Ms. Shazia, it's going to be a challenge for whoever comes into power to diffuse those tensions and that polarization that currently prevails in society?
Like I have just explained to you in my previous reply that if Kamala Harris comes in, she's going to continue the Biden, policies, and that is exactly what the American, perhaps the administration also wants. But if Mr. Trump comes, there might be few changes. For example, he might stop some wars in the world, like he might talk to Bibi, who is Netanyahu, and tell him, okay, fine, we will give you a greater, a pie in the Palestine cake, and then, you just be happy and stop this war, and they will tell Palestinians, oh, you don't have any other way of just stopping the war, and then he might stop the Ukraine war, because he will talk to Putin, because he says that he's very good friends. Otherwise, the rest of the things are going to be the American public actually is not really very much happy about how things are going on in the country. For example, the common man still is very much, worried about the healthcare and the jobs and all this money that is going out of the country. So they will actually be looking at these things as well. Trump said that he's going to generate, a lot of jobs, because he will keep all this money that is going out, which his policy was earlier as well, America first. So voters are actually polarized, and the early voting trends are also not really very encouraging, but let's see. However, my strong intention still is that Kamala Harris is going to win.
Well, of course, we have two views with regards to the US elections, and that what makes democracy and elections interesting, as having dissenting voices come up, and of course a reasonable and proactive approach to democracy and dialogue is what makes democracy beautiful. Dr. Manzoor Afridi, of course, as we're talking about the elections, there's a lot of fresh voters also going to be casting their ballots, and a lot of them for the first time. How do you think internet and social media is going to be also having an effect in these elections? Because of course the American people are going to consider the domestic factors that affect their lives. Everyone has a belly to fill. But of course, how do you think the internet and social media is playing its role with regards to the Gen Z voters?
Really important. We can't ignore the role of social media. And it was Barack Obama who used social media platforms very extensively, right? So even the Facebook diplomacy, if we term it, so that originated from the Barack Obama's presidential campaign. And after that, in so many countries, they have used the same diplomacy to have more and more campaign, to have more ads, by the use of the social media platforms, right? Even here in Pakistan, we have seen this trend. But the United States, this election, it's interesting. Both the candidates, both the parties, they are using social media platforms. People, especially the youngsters, the students, the university scholars, they are concerned about their future. They are the US domestic policy as well as the foreign policy. So on the one hand, if these both political parties, they are campaigning to have more and more support of the Americans through social media, but on the other hand, even the American citizens, they are also closely watching all these claims and promises made by these two personalities, these two candidates for presidency. And they are, I think, they are doing the cost benefit analysis, or they are weighing the all these promises, that which one is correct, or at what kind of effect or impact implications it will have for their own their own policies or programs in future. So it can play very important role, whether that is the Facebook or WhatsApp or Instagram or by YouTube or some other social media platforms. Americans, they are very much active in using social media platforms, so it can bring a huge change, and especially the use of these platforms, I think for the last 10-12 years it has been increased in across the globe. So United States, that is the one of those top countries where there is more and more use of these social media platforms. So I think their programs, their policies about the immigration, healthcare, economy, foreign policy, education, about the science, about the Islamophobia, or some other things, the women's rights, human rights, nuclear proliferation, all these things, Americans, they are watching them very closely. So no doubt that it can bring results, it can bring change, and now it's up to these two political parties that have smartly, they can use these social media platforms for their manifestos, for their programs to attract the American voters.
Definitely. Dr. Baqir, what do you say about the use of social media? As of course Dr. Manzoor mentioned that its use is being more and more increased in these modern times, and we also know algorithms and data, they can work magic when it comes to political campaigns. Do you think in these modern times social media could also be weaponized as a tool for political gains? Because we know that the data that comes on from social media, it does reflect the people's mindset and their sentiments.
No doubt about that. Social media has not only changed the media paradigm, but also changed the political paradigm. You have seen this, the impact of social media in 2016 US presidential election, where all polls, all survey, each and everything was basically saying that Hillary Clinton will win the election very easily. But what happened? It is because of the social media. Similarly, you have seen the impact of the social media, Democrats, how they use the social media as a weapon to attract the new voters, to even attract the conservative voter. So this 2024 election is basically in a two front. One is on a ground level, that these candidate is basically starting their electoral campaign. But other front that is a very important is a social media. So social media is not only used only for the to build a public opinion. It has a power to influence millions of people at a time without spending money, without taking time. So it's influencing power, and secondly, the social media is basically, because America is the most dependent country on a technology dependent country, so the role of social media is a very important. And this social media is not only impacting the US presidential election. We have seen this impact in UK, France, India, even in Pakistan.
Yes.
So this actually, what I believe, that the social media will actually decide the result of the election. The party that can use the social media very effectively, strongly, automatically they have an edge to win this election, particularly in the swing state that has decided these 7 states. Swing state mean the voter is basically undecided. So what we call them. So now at this moment, the social media will play the role to attract the voter, to build the public opinion, to build the basically leadership influence like this. So I think in this 2024 election, even with social media, AI is also playing a very important role. As you have mentioned the algorithm, because I'm my expertise is this in AI and using as electoral process, so I know how this algorithm is basically working. And you have not neglect the role of the Cambridge Analytica like organization.
Yes.
So there are a lot of organizations they are basically working. So you have seen even in the 2016 election, still Mark Zuckerberg is facing the investigation that your platform is used to build the public opinion.
Yes.
That's where the 11th hour, these American voters basically, why they basically cast the vote or they support the Trump. So in 2024 with the social media, AI also play a very important role.
Definitely, Dr. Baqir, and that's a very important point that you raised. Ms. Shazia, as we're also running short on time, I'd like to include comments from you as well. It comes down to the swing states. Of course, social media, the domestic factors, foreign policy, we deliberated on all of that. What do you think is going to be impacting those undecided voters? Which candidate do you think is going to be more successful with regards to the electioneering in garnering votes from that particular community?
Okay, I have covered all this in my first reply as well, but I'm just going to repeat once again because you have asked me. If you see the social media in US at the moment, it's all pro-Harris. And that is the problem. There were a few other things as well, to which it was said that there is a lot of misinformation on social media, and they have been telling them, the American voters again and again, not to really look too much on social media and, look at the reality. So the reality, so now there are two things once again. Reality on ground is different. Like, for example, our friend India also says, oh, shining India, example. And still, hundreds of people, thousands of people leave India, not really legally, but illegally. So there are some, ground realities, and there are some which is playing with the establishment. Trump, if you see on the social media, has been constantly saying that I am an outsider. I am not with the political establishment of this country. So you need to look at me. I am going to, make America great again, that he said in the first instance as well. Whereas Harris has been saying about, abortion. And if you have seen all those people who have come into endorse him as well, like, for example, Barack Obama and Michelle and even Taylor Swift, all of them, they have been saying that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and that light is Kamala Harris. So you should be, voting for her. So social media, these smaller clips were all over viral. And then what I said earlier also, that the Harris campaign has been spending massively on, ads much before, Trump started his ad campaign. So she has been, during the summer, she told all her team to go there and talk about her policies and all that. So social media was all full of, the Harris campaign messages and what they are going to bring and what they are going to change, which I said earlier, there's hardly any, going to be any change if Harris comes in. But still, they have been talking all about this thing. Now, the undecided voters that you have talked about, yes, they are there. But like I just gave you an example that, this early voting, what is showing is Democrats have 45% of votes, Republicans have 29% of votes. So swing states can, but again, it will all come to the Electoral College, how they are going to move things forward. I think the whole political establishment at the moment is, if I can use this word, hell-bent upon getting Trump defeated and bring Kamala Harris. Yes, if Trump comes in, it's good news for countries like Pakistan, definitely. But where we are sitting in Canada, for us and maybe for the rest of the world, for a bigger audience like NATO and all, it is bad news. So the political establishment in US, and that is what the message, predominantly is on social media, to promote Harris, that she is better. Like Michelle said, oh, she's not going to, Trump is not going to take care of the women. Just see how divisive his policies have been and how he speaks about women. So please vote. Then Obama also was very unhappy when some of the, men said that they are going to side with, or the union said that they're going to side with Trump. So, Hispanics, maybe a small crowd is showing some support for Trump, but the others, like, for example, the wall that he said he's going to build between Mexico and US, Mexicans are very, Arab Americans are very unhappy with Harris. So there are two sides. One is unhappy with Trump. The other crowd is unhappy with Harris. So it's a mixed bowl at the moment. Undecided voters are going to make a difference. But again, political establishment, electoral college, and again, I think they are promoting Harris.
Well, definitely, of course, Ms. Shazia, as we talk about social media, as I was also talking to Dr. Baqir earlier, there's this thing with algorithms. Those accounts that you follow, social media shows you similar posts and accounts. And of course, we were talking regarding that as well. And when we talk about whoever comes into power in the US, Pakistan has always had a very good and strong bond with the United States, no matter who is in power, whether it's the Republicans or the Democrats. As we know that Pakistan's diplomatic ties with the United States of America, they have been on a very positive note and have always been like that. With regards to that, our correspondent and co-anchor Jawad Tehami is in New York, and he's also updating us regarding the political temperatures in United States of America and the updates regarding the 5th of November elections. So let's move towards Jawad and see what details he has for us.
So just 7 days are left from 5th of November, when the Americans are going to decide who is going to be the new president of the United States of America, who is going to lead this nation for the next good 4 years. And the Americans are super excited with every single passing day as we've entered into the fall season, climatically speaking, over here. I'm standing right now here in New York City, the heart of New York City, Manhattan, and as you can see, it is windy out here. The temperature is getting lower with every single passing day, but on the political front, the temperature continues to rise with every single passing day. To become the new president of the United States of America, either of the two candidates who are in the run against each other, Republican former President Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, the Democrat candidate, either of the two have to grab 270 electoral college votes out of 538 electoral college votes. And the polls are suggesting so far, according to 538's daily poll tracker, Kamala Harris, the Democratic candidate, is ahead 1.4 percentage points, and this particular percentage has dipped from 1.7 percentage points that was previously noted as per the national surveys and the polls. We also know that both of these candidates are focusing their energies in the last leg of their election campaign on the 7 swing states. Now, these 7 swing states collectively have 93 electoral votes. These swing states are also called as the battleground states because of the fact that the voter inclination is ambiguous in these particular states, and until the final results show up, nothing can be decisively said that which candidate is going to grab which particular swing states. Out of the 50 states, these 7 swing states have a critical value indeed, and they are actually going to sway the elections on the either side, either towards the Republicans or towards the Democrats. Now, on Sunday, former President Donald Trump spoke to a huge gathering at Madison Square Garden in New York City. New York State happens to be a Democrat state, although it is a hometown state of former President Donald Trump. But this particular gathering was huge, and he talked to his supporters and the likely voters very passionately. He had been talking about immigration. He had once again reiterated his stance of making America great again, making America powerful again. He's also talked about the immigration drive that he's going to undertake, the deportation drive rather, against immigrants, and he was of the view that it is going to be the largest, the biggest deportation drive in the history of the United States of America. Number of other issues he'd been talking about. Every single particular thing he had been talking about was cheered up by, was applauded by the huge crowd that had gathered over there on Sunday. At that particular day, Kamala Harris was in Philadelphia as well as in Pennsylvania. Now, Pennsylvania happens to be that particular swing state that has got the maximum number of electoral votes, and the analysts over here are of the view that whoever is going to win this particular state, he is most likely going to be the next president of the United States of America. Also, on Monday, we saw Kamala Harris went to Michigan. She urged the young voters in particular over there to fight for democracy, fight for freedom, and also saying that it is the time to turn a page on fear and divisiveness. A day earlier, when she was in Pennsylvania, analysts were of the view that she had rather a conciliatory tone in that particular public gathering. We also know that she is going to Washington on Tuesday. Also, former President Donald Trump was in Atlanta, Georgia on Monday. He also once again slammed his rival Kamala Harris. Earlier, he had been saying that she is unfit to be the president of the United States of America, and she is a person of a low IQ. During that particular public gathering and rally in Georgia, that is again one of the swing states, he called former First Lady Michelle Obama as nasty. He has also said that he's not a Nazi. It is a very bad thing to be a Nazi, and rather it is Kamala Harris who is a fascist. Now, when we talk about Kamala Harris, she is heading to Washington on Tuesday, and when we talk about former President Donald Trump on Tuesday, he is going to Pennsylvania. Now, that particular rally at Madison Square Garden, a comedian, Tony Hinchcliffe, made certain comments that actually generated a lot of controversy here across various quarters. So we'll see what sort of an impact those particular comments are going to have on the overall outcome for the Republicans. So far, the race is very tight. It is neck and neck. Nothing can be said for sure that who is going to be the new president of the United States of America. Now, again, 270 electoral college votes are required from 538 electoral votes overall, and three of these votes, 538, are for the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. So the things are turning out to be really interesting. People over here are enthusiastic. They're participating in the rallies. We have seen people chanting slogans as far as their favorite candidate is concerned, chanting those slogans in his or her favor. And we'll also see that how this particular election is going to be, and who is going to be the next president of the United States of America. Specifically talking about the foreign policy front, there are many Americans over here. We have seen in the recent past there were massive demonstrations at various university campuses here in United States of America as far as this worsening and deteriorating situation with every single passing day in Gaza, owing to Israel's aggression since 7th of October 2023 is concerned. It's been going on. There has been a lot of resentment among people of various quarters here in the United States of America. We have seen the United States of America expressing a relentless and unconditional support and help to Israelis in terms of what Americans and Israelis call as Israel's self-defense and the right to self-defense. We have also seen U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken going ahead with shutter diplomacy. Rather, that particular diplomacy hasn't given any sort of a positive result as far as the ceasefire over there in Gaza is concerned. Rather, we have seen that expansion of aggression on the part of the Israeli regime and its forces into Lebanon, also targeting Iranians, also those assassination attempts of the top leaders of the Palestinian groups in the Middle East. So the Muslim sentiment over here is a majority of the people from this particular strata of society are of the view that if Kamala Harris wins, it's going to be the continuity of the policy of the Biden administration as far as the situation in Gaza is concerned. So there are many people who think that this particular situation could be resolved if former President Donald Trump happens to be the next president of the United States of America. But that is going to be another interesting see. Time will only tell that what is going to happen as far as the foreign policy front is concerned. It's Jawad Hami reporting for PTV World from New York City, United States of America.
Right. Thank you, Jawad, for giving us all the insights and updates rise from the United States, where the action is all happening. And of course, 5th of November, where the race for the President House will conclude. And we'll keep having more updates, keep receiving more updates from our co-anchor in New York, Jawad Hami, who is constantly updating us with regards to the US elections. With that, see you same time tomorrow. Till then, take care.